Hello folks, this is Jeff Phillips with smokingmeat.com, and today we're going to be cooking up a tri-tip. I have a tri-tip here from Meat and Bone over at meatandbone.com, and they sent this Wagyu tri-tip to me to try out. They just wanted to kind of see what I thought about it, and so that's what we're going to do, and I wanted to do this on video and let you guys be a part of this as well. So basically, just to give you a little summary, we're going to take this tri-tip and we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to apply some salt to this to dry brine it. I'm also going to apply some of my Texas rub, and I've had a lot of you guys ask me why I don't just use the Texas rub to dry brine it, because the rub does have some salt. The problem is it doesn't have enough salt. So I'm going to lay down a layer of salt on this tri-tip. And typically for dry brining, you use 1/2 teaspoon per pound. This tri-tip's right at 2 pounds, so we're going to use a full teaspoon on the top. And I'm also going to, lay down a probably a teaspoon or so of the Texas style rub as well on top of that. And I've done this many times, and so I'm confident that won't make it too salty, and it'll really make it taste good. The Texas style rub is something you can find over at thinbluefoods.com. It's just a basic salt and pepper, garlic, onion, cayenne, just simple ingredients. So I've got my kosher salt here. I just use coarse kosher salt. One reason I use kosher salt, and why a lot of people use kosher salt, is because it dissolves so easily. So what happens when you lay down this layer of kosher salt on this meat is it's going to start drawing that moisture to the surface. That moisture is going to melt the salt, dissolve the salt, and then those salty juices are going to be absorbed right back into the meat. So I like to buy the salt in the shaker here, and it just makes it much easier to apply. I do not measure. If you want to measure, you can. I've done this enough where I know about the right amount, and I can apply that evenly right where I want it. And a teaspoon of this salt is more than you might think it is. The first time you do this, I recommend actually measuring out a teaspoon of the salt into your hand and then apply that to the meat, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So that looks good with the salt right there. And then, of course, I have my Texas style rub. I have one already open here. And now one thing I could do, I could wait about 20 minutes. I do this occasionally. I'll wait about 20 minutes. I like to see that moisture being pulled to the surface, but you really don't have to. I don't know that there's any benefit from waiting to apply this. So for our sake here and expediency, I'm going to just go ahead and apply a light coat. I'm not going to put much. Just and you'll notice I'm just applying this to the top, and that'll be plenty. I'm just trying to make sure I get it evenly, and that is, that's plenty right there. So now that may seem really simple, and it is. That's the easiest thing you can do is dry brining and applying a little rub to this tri-tip. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to sit this pan here in the fridge, and you can leave it 2 hours. That would be great. 2 hours is about right. I'm actually going to leave this one overnight, and we'll be cooking this one up in the morning. I just took the tri-tip out of the fridge. It's been there in the fridge all night long, dry brining, and we're getting ready to. I just started the Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi, and see it's starting to smoke a little bit, and we're getting ready to put this tri-tip in the smoker, and then we'll just take it from there. Let me I did want to see if I could give you a look at this tri-tip, and I'll try to show a close-up of this, but the salt has completely melted. All you can see is basically the pepper, and everything else is kind of dissolved and moved into the meat just a little bit, or at least we're not able to see it. But it's looking really good, and I want to get this thing in that smoker, let it get some of that smoke, and we'll come back and take a look at it here in just a little while. There's that tri-tip we just put in. It's just been in there a few minutes. I did want to give you guys a close-up view of that. I think that looks really good. You can see how the salt has all melted. All you can see is the pepper on the top, and a lot of that seasoning along with the salt has dissolved, or at least melted to some degree, and a lot of that flavor will be absorbed into the meat. It's looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and close this lid. I want to show you my Smoke X over here that I'm using. On channel 1, I have a meat probe ready to go. I don't have that in yet. I'll be putting that in here in just a few minutes. On this channel 2, you can see that I have the ambient probe in the smoker, and it's I just had the lid open, so the temperature's dropped, but that will come back up somewhere around 220, 225 degrees. And I like to use that ambient probe right on the grate where the meat is, and it gives me a little more of an accurate view. The Camp Chef does have its own probe, of course, on the side, but I just think your better temperature, your more accurate temperature reading is going to be right there at the grate where where the meat is sitting, and so that's just how I like to do it. We will leave that right there, and we'll check back here in just a little bit. I wanted to show you guys that temperature. Of course, the temperature on my Smoke X channel 2, which is my air probe, that's the ambient temperature of the smoker, is reading about 220 right now. The Camp Chef is reading 215. That's pretty close. I'm obviously going to trust the Smoke X temperature a little more because I've got that right down on the grate where the meat is, and but that's pretty close. Now it's saying 213 on the Camp Chef, 218 on the Smoke X. So at least that gives us, we kind of know where we're sitting. I am going to go ahead and put that meat probe in here. So let's go ahead and raise the lid real quick. And I'm just going to insert that. You want the tip of that probe to be right in the center of that meat. And let's go ahead and close the lid real quick. And let's see what we're looking at. We're showing the temperature of that tri-tip is 57 degrees, and we'll just keep an eye on that. You will notice that I ran that probe wire through the lid of the Woodwind instead of through this hole we have over here that's made for, it's going to be kind of hot there, but you can see the hole. The hole is just not big enough for 2 of the ThermalWorks probes to fit through. Alright, the time has come to check on our tri-tip. It's been on the smoker for just over an hour, and let's look at it and see what's going on. I think it's looking pretty good. I've let it go up to about 115. I often do somewhere around 105 to 110, but I got busy, and that that happens. 115 is still not bad. We like our meat medium rare, so we're going to throw this thing on the griddle. Now I've got it heating up, and let's see what we're looking at. Looks like our max reading was 388, and so I like for it to be close to 400 degrees if possible. And it's definitely getting there. So we're going to go ahead and grab our tongs, and I'm going to get that temperature gauge out of there temporarily. This is kind of hard to do with one hand. And that feels so tender. I'm using some avocado oil. It has a real high smoke point. I think around 520 degrees actually. So we're going to use just a touch of that on the griddle. See if we can get us a good sear on that. You can kind of see where I have the setting. It's just below medium. I'm going to go ahead and close the lid to the smoker here. Alright, let's go ahead and flip this thing over. Man, I wish you guys could smell this. That smells so good. I'm going to go ahead and place that back in the smoker. Turn that griddle off for the moment. I want to get a reading on our temperature. Let me get my meat probe again. I'm going to put that back in there and let's see what we're looking at. See, in the process of searing that, we only went up about 7 or 8 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that in the smoker for another 15-20 minutes and let it come on up to 125 to somewhere between 125 and 130 is about right for us. And you can just, you know, however you like your the doneness of your steaks, that's what you would come up to. And I will come back and let you have a look at it once it's finished up. Alright, it's looking good. And it's reached 130 degrees. So let's get that thing out of the smoker. I've got a table here ready to sit it on. We're going to get some foil over it. And I'll be right back. So I've tinted some foil over the top of the tri-tip, and we're going to let that rest for, man, I like to go 15 or 20 minutes, but you know, if you can't stand it, I guess 5 or 10 minutes would be better than nothing. I've just removed the foil from the tri-tip. It's been resting for 15-20 minutes, and I'm ready to cut into it here and see what this looks like. So let's do that. Now, one thing you'll notice about tri-tip is we've got the grain run in 2 different directions, so it kind of changes. It kind of changes as it comes across. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate it right here where that grain changes, and we're going to look at it. And let me turn this around here, we can see it. That's how I'm going to slice it. I'm just going to, and you guys would not believe how good that is. I'm really impressed with not only the fat content, but the flavor, the tenderness, the texture of this tri-tip. And once again, I got this tri-tip from Meat and Bone at meatandbone.com. Thank you for hanging out with me today as I cooked up this Wagyu tri-tip from Meat and Bone, and I've got some cleaning up to do here, so I'm going to leave you with it. This is Jeff Phillips from smokingmeat.com, and I will see you next time.